Hi Suresh, thanks a lot for joining today. How are you?
I'm doing fine, AKS. How are you?
I'm doing good. So the topic for today's Trends and Insight podcast will be semiconductors. And I think we all know, we agree to the fact that how pivotal their role has been in technology landscape. Those tiny component which has actually set the foundation for virtually all the electronic device, be it telephone, be it computer. And I think everyone and who's interested in the future of technology will be interested to know what semiconductors are and how they function. So on that part, to start with, would you like to talk about what semiconductors are and why they are actually important in today's technology landscape?
Correct. So, first of all, thanks for having me here, and hope to have an interesting conversation. Semiconductors, I think, is extremely important in today's world, especially given the fact that any device that we know is actually a computing device. Earlier, we used to have fridges, we used to have televisions, we used to have many other devices which might not require any kind of computing power. Maybe it could be considered as an electronic or an electrical device. But in today's context, if you're talking about smart metering, smart fans, smart ACs, smart TVs, and so on and so forth, anything and everything really requires some amount of compute power. And hence semiconductors are actually becoming much more relevant on one side, which is the tiny devices that you just spoke about. But on the other side, any kind of compute intensive devices or infrastructure also requires the huge capability of semiconductors. And they are in a very interesting sphere of the technology innovation. And you will continue to see them being much more relevant in literally anything and everything that we or any kind of consumers do.
So with that, would you also like to talk about some recent, or I should say some significant advancement that have happened with semiconductor technology over the past years?
Absolutely. Today we are all talking about artificial intelligence, right? So think of semiconductors being the only one which are powering, and that's the reason you could pretty much see NVIDIA being valued at about $2.6 trillion means the promise of what an NVIDIA powered GPU and associated software can really impact, right? And I'm sure we all know about the connected devices market, the way it is going on. So the way I see it is that the power of computing has really increased enormously. The second is the form factor, or in terms of the nanometer that we actually see. Semiconductors are also becoming increasingly small, which means sustainable infrastructure, lower power, and so on. So for us, what we really need to look at is the ability to do a lot more compute or computing using semiconductors is going to be increasingly important. Now, there are associated advancements which semiconductor companies like an NVIDIA or an Intel, others are actually coming up, right? And these could be in the form of security, these could be in the form of, AI, it could be a lot more. But there will be a lot more innovations than what we have already seen.
So with that, I'm also keen to know, how HCLTech is engaging with semiconductors. So on that part, would you also like to talk about how HCLTech is incorporating semiconductors into their product and service offerings?
Yeah. See, when we talk about semiconductor, we are literally talking about some of the semiconductor companies like Intel or an AMD or an NVIDIA and all of them, right? Now, the products is not related to just the CPUs alone that these semiconductor companies come up with. They have a ton of software and hardware elements. The nature of the CPU itself has been diversified. So HCLTech essentially looks at these partners, especially Intel, NVIDIA or AMD, all of them, as very, very strategic, and hence some of them have been considered as an ecosystem. And we run it as an ecosystem to fundamentally look at how we can be of value to these companies by providing us our services. It could be silicon engineering, it could be related to IT services, and so on. That's on one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum, HCL also looks at early adoption of these technologies, much ahead of how we can get access through launches that will be done by an OEM or a hyperscaler or an ISV. We are able to engage directly with these companies understand the technology, create those solutions and differentiate ourselves and take it ahead in the market much faster. So HCLTech has a very unique relationship with pretty much all of them, and that would be the full spectrum of what we can do for them and what we can do for our enterprises by adopting the technologies.
So I think that also makes me ask you about some examples or maybe some projects or solutions which are developed by our organization HCLTech. So would you like to name some, or maybe which we should say that those are heavily relied on semiconductors?
Absolutely. Now, again, everyone is talking about edge AI in today's context, right? AI being a lot more prominent in the market. Edge is obviously coming up as a very interesting topic in itself. When we talk about edge AI per se, as much as there is traction and noise and there is impact in the market that we can clearly see right now, think of it that several years back, maybe about roughly 3 years back, we had already deployed, engaged with one of the partners, Intel, and came up with edge AI implementation in Mexico. So that entire service was launched as a service model, but you could think of how AI was deployed at the edge in the camera, doing vision analytics and so on. So we have been able to look at such kind of innovative solutions far ahead of even when the market has started, I think, realizing the potential or a need. And edge AI is just one of the examples, but you could think of examples on cloud, you could think examples around digital workplace, or for that matter network and edge. So any new technology area that you're thinking of right now, any enterprise, whether it is private 5G, or you could talk about sovereign cloud, you could talk about hybrid cloud, you could talk about multi-cloud, there is a point of view and a solution that HCLTech has been able to create or think of and incorporate in our existing portfolio of solutions that we take to the market. So edge AI is just one example. There are a bunch of other examples that we have of the future where we are trying to take new technologies.
So because I think we all will agree with the fact that the influence of semiconductors is not hidden, that is clearly visible to everyone, be it healthcare industries or automotive or maybe consumer electronics. So would you like to talk about how semiconductor is actually impacting these industries and driving innovation in there?
Absolutely. So let's try and take, when we spoke about new technologies and we also spoke about some of the new offerings and solutions, right? I gave you a few examples, but think of a situation in the context of AI and people talking about sovereign cloud. There is increasing need to keep the data within the country and keep the data secure. So confidential computing, as we know, or sovereign cloud, as we know, are topics that every government and every enterprise is interested in. So how do we sort of ensure that the data is protected even when it is in use? So there comes the propositions that we are actually building for global enterprises to be able to deliver confidential AI, confidential compute from even a vertical perspective as it applies to banking, as it applies to maybe a manufacturing and so on and so forth. So these are innovative solutions that we are actually trying to develop, and these can be applied even in situations where you need in a healthcare scenario, right? If you need to train the model based on data that is available in Germany versus data that is available of patients in let's say India versus Singapore to any country, and then contribute that knowledge to drug discovery, how do you sort of do that? Well, the data is secure, you really need to train those models and so on, right? There comes confidential computing and AI, confidential AI. So that's how we will eventually impact enterprises but also consumers, because the faster drug discovery and a faster solution that we come up with will mean it will have greater impact on the society itself. So there are steps that we take which not only impacts enterprises but also impacts the way that we see science and technology being adopted in the market.
We talked about AI a lot, while we were speaking. So, how do you think semiconductors is, I should say, impacting the development of AI and IoT technologies?
Yeah. See, again, I think for AI to be really where it is today, there is a huge contribution that's been done from all the semiconductor companies, right? We started by giving an example or quoting NVIDIA for reference. So very clearly, the way that they are actually developing their roadmap of products and solutions is extremely important for us. And all of these companies are not just relying on the CPUs, which maybe we used to know about 5 years, 10 years back, right? Now we are talking about classes of CPUs and GPUs that are coming up. So we have GPUs which are meant for workstations. We have GPUs which are in the servers. We have FPGAs. Many of them would possibly not know. But we have these various kinds of processing and computing powers that are available. So our ability to leverage all of these and look at how we can do inferencing, which might not require heavy GPUs, versus training, which might require GPUs and so on, will be extremely important. In that context, also look at it from a perspective of innovation which is coming in the form of AI PCs. So you're now talking about compute power and neural processing units which are available in a PC for a developer to be able to really train a model with an X amount of parameters, right? So you're actually bringing the compute power to the PC itself. You don't need to actually bring it to a server. And that's where AI and the role of the semiconductor is actually extremely important, because this is for the first time that it will ever happen, or it has ever happened, where there is innovation that's happening at the consumer end, where you can really impact, but at the same time there is innovation which is also happening at the enterprise side. Enterprise requirements to be able to consume AI with help of the semiconductor companies will be extremely important.
So let's agree this fact that despite of all the advancement we're talking about and the importance of semiconductors, there are challenges, and the challenges that needs to be addressed for a sustainable growth in terms of innovation. So would you like to talk about some challenges that we are facing in the semiconductor industry today?
I think the challenges are slightly different. If I had to put those challenges are maybe hurdles that we need to overcome. I wouldn't really say there are constraints, but hurdles could be about way the processing power is made available. We are all talking about quote unquote geopolitical issues of where the compute is being made available from in terms of the products and softwares and so on. The supply chain needs to be a little tweaked. Supply chain in terms of the raw materials, the final finished goods, etc. that's made available. That needs to be really tweaked in context of the geopolitical issues and so on. Last but not the least, the continuous development will also mean that adoption will be extremely important. As much as there is development of the roadmap by the semiconductor companies, the bigger problem that we need to possibly address is how easy can it be made for enterprises and developers to be consuming those technologies. So today, can a simple developer go and maybe get access to a server or a cloud instance? The question could be yes and no. But if it was easy for them to adopt, not just the infrastructure, getting access to the infrastructure, but also getting access to the software, which is made available by the semiconductor companies. So combination of those will really help adoption to be a little more faster. So I guess there a lot of these companies could do a better job.
The moment you said supply chain management, I framed my next question in my mind. So how do you think HCLTech, our organization, is addressing these challenges specifically in terms of supply chain management and technology integration is what I would be keen to know.
I think there are interesting tools and softwares and platforms that we will be able to look at when it comes to solving some of the problems that the semiconductor companies would have, right? When we say supply chain, I'm also talking about the developers that might be required in order to develop the roadmap of the product itself, right? Can we think of having more resources in Latin America versus maybe some part of Europe like Russia or Ukraine and so on? Maybe that is one part of it. But the other part of it also could be about, how could we be able to invest in center of excellences in specific geos that the semiconductor companies would really want to, right, in comparison to their existing structure. All of that areas are something which HCL has always been adept at. So we will be able to, and we continue to make an impact through those strategies. Lastly, I think, as a company, we have new vistas as a focus area. So that will also align with the broader supply chain strategy or the issues that we have through the companies that we just referred to.
So let's also talk about sustainability and ethics, right? So how do you think semiconductor industry is addressing those environmental issues in terms of production and waste?
Yeah. See, one is the semiconductor companies really talking about what sustainability measures are they taking in order to ensure the product that they're launching is also aligned with the sustainability goals of the company, right? So that pretty much we are aware of, and I don't think so there is any question on their capabilities to achieve that. That's one. But the way that I look at the semiconductor companies and around sustainability, just as an example, and this is possibly a trivia question, is the most efficient or the greenest data center is that of an Intel data center. The way you measure it is with the PUE ratio, right? It's at about 1.06. How did they achieve is a question that we all need to think of, right? What servers have they looked at it? What was the architecture? How did they design their power? How did they look at any kind of telemetry information to be able to better their eventual KPIs? All of that is readily available with us, and that partnership will enable us to look at how sustainable infrastructure should be deployed for our end customers globally. So we are addressing that topic with these partnerships, and we are also incorporating all of this into our strategy, into our solutions that we will eventually take it to the market and so on.
And so how do you think, because we talked about ethics and sustainability, but any predictions that you have regarding semiconductor industries?
So the only prediction that I have is, one, the compute power is not only going to increase as we speak, but also it will be about ability for enterprises to be consuming various kinds of compute power, right, in the form of CPUs or GPUs and so on and so forth. One. The second is the fact that there'll be a lot more softwares which are relevant from semiconductor companies. Long back, semiconductor companies were only known for being a processor company, right? The only product that you would have seen is just being processors. But their aspiration is to be much more relevant in any enterprise architecture, the broader thing. So there will be elements of security that they will address. There will be elements of workloads that they will also try to address. There will be elements of sustainability and so on and so forth. All that we have spoken. So my view is that they will be a lot more relevant in the broader enterprise architecture across hardware, software, open source contributions, their tools, their libraries, and so on and so forth. So the development or the roadmap from all of these companies will not be limited to just the processing power. It will be far more, and everyone needs to really watch out for where they will land and how they will be impacting the society.
And on that note, how do you think our organization HCLTech is addressing that, or maybe is preparing for the future trend to stay at the forefront in semiconductor industry?
Yeah. See, anything that the semiconductor companies are really wanting to do, whether it is on a software or a hardware layer, I think HCLTech has a role to play, right? And there is a lot of value add that we can actually give, whether it is trying to take their softwares to the market or developing the software itself, or for that matter, developing their products like processors and so on and so forth. So we will continue to play a pivotal role in that entire development strategy, including the roadmap, but also technology adoption and so on and so forth. That has been being done in the last decade or so, but I think we will pay a little more attention to the way that we would want to impact the society. You will see that happening more as we speak.
Any final thoughts that you would like to give to the audience about semiconductor, and what is that businesses need to take care, considering the trend, the future trends that will also demand a lot more into semiconductors. So yeah.
So the only thing that I possibly will cover here is the fact that maybe a decade back, when you were looking at innovation and how that innovation is actually impacting the society, you were looking at some of the ISVs like the ones that we know of, including a Red Hat or a VMware or for that matter SAP and so on and so forth. The innovation then started coming to the cloud through the cloud players, and then of course you have the broader ecosystem of ODM players and niche players and so on and so forth. In the last decade, what we've also seen is that there is a lot of innovation actually coming from the semiconductor players. So our ability and industry ability to be able to leverage semiconductor players innovation in the broader technology stack of the cloud, the ISVs, the OEMs and so on and so forth, plus the software elements like the open source and so on, is going to be very important for anyone to adopt and anyone to create an impactful story for themselves and the market. So I think we need to really look at the larger technology stack rather than pinpoint to maybe one player versus other players. So I would say that's the biggest takeaway.